It had been 432 days since the last real conversation. Ray Marlowe marked the number with a dull scratch across the control console, right between the blinking Error 12 oxygen recycler malfunction and the faded sticker of a cat giving a thumbs up. The once bustling outpost Epsilon 6 now creaked like an old starship haunted by ghosts of ambition. A few broken chairs floated past lazily in low gravity, and the intercom occasionally emitted what sounded suspiciously like the out-of-tune humming of a long-dead maintenance droid. Ray, wrapped in a thermal blanket and his favorite, and only, banana-patterned bathrobe, sipped from a cracked mug that read, "Best Dad in Sector 4." He wasn't a dad. He wasn't even sure he was still technically employed. The only voice he'd heard in weeks belonged to a mangled AI core he'd nicknamed BB, short for BBX 4000, a formerly state-of-the-art sentient hub, now reduced to mumbling half-sentences and offering unsolicited dating advice. Probability of successful romantic encounter with space debris? 3.4%, BB offered cheerfully. Better than my last date, Ray muttered. Outside the viewport, Cantor's Maw loomed, a massive black hole framed in ribbons of violet gas and shattered starlight. It dragged everything inward with eerie patience. The outpost had been built nearby for research and diplomatic exchange, back when humans were still considered interesting. Now its coordinates had been erased from most official records, and even the rats seemed to have packed up and left. Ray had stayed behind, mostly out of inertia. That and the fact that someone had to keep the coffee machine swearing in 6 languages. So when the silence broke, with a shimmer in the air and the distinct whum of displaced matter, Ray assumed, not unreasonably, that he was hallucinating again. The figure before him was tall, angular, and shimmered like heat rising from pavement. Light passed through her in fractured spectrums. Her limbs didn't quite obey gravity. Her eyes, or what passed for eyes, resembled twin prisms, refracting unseen wavelengths. She was alien, unquestionably, but also composed, regal, vaguely annoyed. "You are Ray Marlowe," she stated, voice like a crystal chime wrapped in static. Ray blinked twice. "You're not the pizza delivery guy." "No," she replied evenly. "I am Varaya Thole, diplomat of the Safari Union. I am here for the selection." "Selection?" "For union, bonding, genetic and cosmic integration," she added. "You have been chosen." Ray slowly set his mug down, then picked it back up, just to be sure his hand still existed. "Okay, that's a lot of nouns. Let me just check with my assistant real quick." He turned to the nearest speaker. "BB, am I awake?" "Likely, unfortunately." Ray turned back, squinting. "So just to clarify, you want to, what? Marry me?" "That is an imprecise human term. More accurately, I wish to initiate a mutual symbiotic resonance-based alignment." "Still sounds like marriage." She regarded him coolly. "Do you accept?" Ray coughed. "Lady, I haven't worn pants in a week. The station's plumbing screams when I flush, and my last romantic interaction was with a vending machine that wouldn't take my credits unless I stroked it gently. I am not what you'd call prime mating material." Varaya's head tilted. "That is not a disqualifier. In fact, your current neurochemical disordering increases compatibility." Ray narrowed his eyes. "You mean my depression? Among other anomalies?" "Well, that's charming." To ease the tension, he offered her something from the snack drawer. She accepted a packet of expired chili paste, squirted it into her palm, and observed with clinical interest as her translucent skin sizzled, reconfigured, and reabsorbed it. "I find this sensation pleasing," she said. Ray decided right then that either he was in a coma or this was the worst episode of Bachelor, Galactic Edition ever recorded. The two sat in awkward silence for a moment, punctuated only by the distant ping of a dislodged wrench hitting a bulkhead. "So, what's your deal? Like, romantically? You into long walks on asteroid belts? Screaming into voids? Tell me something about you that doesn't involve bending the laws of physics." Varaya's face remained unreadable. "I enjoy listening to gravitational harmonics. I detest the texture of carbon-based fabrics. I once disassembled a moon." Ray nodded solemnly. Yeah, I get that. I once microwaved a fork. For a moment, the ghost of a smile flickered across her crystalline features. Or maybe that was just a glitch in the light. He leaned back in his chair, watching the black hole swirl lazily outside. You know, I always figured if an alien ever showed up, it'd be to destroy the Earth. Not ask me out. Destruction is primitive. Curiosity is survival. You are weirdly charming, Ray admitted. BB's voice crackled in. Begin courting protocol. Suggest offering damaged relic or emotionally significant object. Ray held up his cat sticker. This, used to mean something. Varela took it reverently. I accept this offering. Outside, Canner's maw whispered in invisible wavelengths. The universe didn't care that a washed-up human technician and a crystalline alien diplomat had just bonded over old stickers and chili paste. But Ray, for the first time in a very long while, felt a flicker of something dangerously close to curiosity. Ray Marlowe's morning routine was generally simple. Grumble awake, try to remember what species he was, reheat something that may or may not have been edible once, and spend 3 hours trying to fix the same flickering hallway light using only duct tape and cursing. But today he'd added alien marriage proposal to the schedule, and that was throwing off his entire rhythm. Varela Thole hovered, literally hovered, a few inches off the ground beside the outpost's cracked observation window, watching the churning black hole like one might observe a favorite pet curled up in its bed. She radiated the kind of poise that made Ray feel like an overripe potato someone had drawn a face on. So, Ray said, trying to sound casual while yanking a sock off the air filter, I've been thinking about your little offer. It is not little. It is cosmically significant, Varela replied, her voice a sonorous echo that made the mug on the table vibrate. Right. Forgive me. Your cosmically significant bonding proposal? He cleared his throat. You sure you didn't mix up the resonance files or something? Maybe someone out there's got a similar mental entropy signature? She turned to face him, all mirrored facets in celestial calm. No error occurred. You are a match, specifically your neurological disordering, emotional recursion patterns, and fluctuating existential stasis align with my species bonding metrics. Ray scratched his head. That sounds like you ran my depression through a blender with quantum spaghetti. It is a rare alignment. Fortunate. Depends on who you ask, he muttered, pouring himself a generous cup of coffee concentrate. It tasted like burnt despair and boot leather. He loved it. Varela drifted closer, hands folded in front of her in an alien approximation of diplomacy. You are not convinced. I expected hesitation. Humans often exhibit reluctance in the face of that which they do not understand. No offense, but that's our thing. We're terrified of toasters that talk back. She cocked her head. Do they? Some do, Ray said. Not well, though. Mostly complaints about crumb buildup. Silence stretched for a beat. Then two. Varela blinked, or something like it, and spoke again. Perhaps explanation will aid comprehension. My species does not seek mates based on aesthetic form or romantic projection. Such impulses are inefficient. We bond with entities whose energy patterns increase our dimensional cohesion. Ray sipped. I'm a cosmic battery? No, she replied gently. You are a nexus. Your presence stabilizes temporal uncertainty. You make reality quieter. Ray snorted into his mug. That's the nicest way anyone's ever called me boring. I did not say boring. I said steady. Even weirder. He stood, wandered over to a control panel that hadn't functioned in months, and tapped it like it owed him money. Look, I'm just trying to understand this, because in my experience, people who show up unannounced and ask for long-term commitment are usually salesmen or religious zealots. You don't seem like either, unless the Safari have a pamphlet I haven't seen. I can prepare one. That was a joke. I know. Oh, right, sorry. I'm not used to aliens with a sense of humor. I am not used to humans who continue living on defunct space debris voluntarily. Touché, Ray muttered. They stood in silence again. This time, it felt less awkward. The black hole outside shimmered, shifting colors like a cosmic oil slick. Then, as casually as if she were asking for the time, Varela said, "We will commence integration testing shortly. You will be required to harmonize your emotional field with mine." Whoa, whoa! Emotional field? What does that even mean? It is similar to what you would call trust exercises, only with higher risk of neurological fusion. Ray blinked. Eka, you ever hear of bowling? That's how humans build trust. I am unfamiliar. He grinned. Perfect. I'll explain while we duct tape the hydroponics back together. That'll be our trust exercise. Varela nodded. Acceptable. Ray gestured toward the tools. Just don't lick any wires unless I say it's safe. I do not lick, she replied, slightly offended. That's good to know. As they worked, her calibrating conduits with dazzling precision, him holding a flashlight with questionable effectiveness, they began talking. Not about bonding or resonance fields or intergalactic politics, but about food. Varela once consumed a collapsing star. Music, Ray claimed to be a former kazoo champion. And childhood memories. Hers involved sentient geometry puzzles. His involved a pet ferret named Genghis. For the first time in years, the outpost didn't feel so hollow. Later, Ray flopped onto a bench in the common area, grease on his face and laughter still echoing faintly in his chest. So, he said between gulps of recycled air, this whole selection thing, it's not love, not in the way we think of it. No, Varela said softly, but that does not diminish its meaning. He looked at her, watching how the light from the black hole shimmered across her crystalline skin. Okay, he said, I'll try. She didn't smile, not quite, but the air between them grew warmer, less brittle. BB chose that moment to blurt, "Warning, spontaneous affection detected. Initiate romance protocols?" Ray sighed. BB, shut up. Affirmative, resuming lonely playlist. As the faint strains of a melancholic space ballad drifted through the station, Ray leaned back and chuckled. Maybe cosmic bonding wasn't so bad after all. The outpost had moods. Ray was certain of this. Sometimes it groaned like an old man with back pain. Other times it clicked and chirped like it was trying to remember a song. Today, though, it was humming, a deep, pulsing vibration that rolled through the floor panels and made Ray's teeth itch. He stood in the dim central control room, half-dressed and clutching a half-toasted protein bar like it might defend him. On the main screen, a strange pattern looped endlessly, swirling lines of static and bursts of what looked suspiciously like Morse code. You seeing this? He asked BB, who had recently taken to speaking in haikus for no discernible reason. Waves of time ripple. Your heartbeat echoes in them. Also, breakfast soon? Ray sighed. You're not helpful, but at least you're poetic now. He tapped a few buttons. The waveform distorted again, sharper this time, and familiar. You're telling me the black hole is calling me? Correction, came Varela's voice from behind him, soft and steady. It is responding. Ray spun. You ever consider not sneaking up on people like that? I do not sneak. I arrive. He gestured to the screen. So, you know what this is? Varela approached, crystalline limbs glinting faintly under the emergency lighting. She studied the display in silence, then said, These patterns resemble ancestral harmonics. They have not been heard since the Shatter Wars. Your presence is triggering them. Ray blinked. Ancestral what now? She tilted her head, a movement as graceful as shifting glass. A conflict long past. Before your species left its ocean womb, my people believed certain beings could anchor or distort time itself. We called them chrono-latched entities. They were myth, mostly, until now. Ray sat slowly, dropping the bar onto the console. And you think I'm one of those? You survived a gravitational flare 12 years ago when the reactor ruptured. You should have been destroyed, atomized, but you weren't. I got lucky. No one gets lucky near a singularity. Ray stood, pacing. So, you think the black hole changed me? That I've got some kind of temporal mojo now? Your mind resonates at multiple frequencies. You occupy time both fully and incompletely. The black hole recognizes you. Well, that's horrifying. She stepped closer, her gaze unreadable. It is also beautiful. He stared at her. You have a strange sense of what's beautiful. I'm looking at you, aren't I? Ray chuckled, running a hand through his hair. Careful, you're starting to sound human. I have been studying you. Your sarcasm, while structurally inefficient, provides emotional insulation. Yeah, we call that humor. Keeps us from screaming into the void. Varela paused. I tried screaming into the void once. It screamed back. Ray opened his mouth, then closed it. You win that one. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the screen. The static patterns grew more frantic. A strange rhythm pulsed beneath them, almost like breathing. Ray felt it, not just in his ears, but in his bones. Like the black hole was reaching through reality and pressing a finger to his spine. Should I be worried? He asked. Yes, Varela said gently, but also intrigued. BB crackled to life. Mood detected. Existential panic. Suggest snack or nap. Ray snorted. Or both. Why not panic while eating? They left the control room and walked through the outpost's ruined hydroponics bay, where dead vines curled around cracked glass domes and algae lights flickered like dying fireflies. Varela moved among the decay like it didn't touch her, an elegant ripple of color and quiet thought. Why didn't you tell me this sooner? Ray asked. I did not wish to overwhelm you. I live in a floating junkyard next to a cosmic meat grinder. I think that ship sailed. She touched a broken leaf, and the plant shimmered, briefly glowing before returning to its wilted state. You are not a mistake, Ray. You are a hinge, a point on which potential futures rotate. Ray rubbed his face. You really know how to flatter a guy. Was that sarcasm? Absolutely. They returned to the common area. Ray flopped onto the couch, and Varela remained standing, perfectly still. So what happens now? He asked. We investigate the resonance further, perhaps explore deeper contact with the black hole's signal. Explore contact with a bottomless pit that devours light and screams in my brain. Great. Anything else fun on the agenda? Varela considered. I could attempt humor again. Oh boy, she paused. Knock knock. Ray blinked. Okay, who's there? Temporal anomaly, he smirked. Temporal anomaly who? You already answered that. Time loop complete. Ray burst out laughing. Genuine, exhausted laughter. Varela smiled subtly, a fractal shifting in her cheek. The outpost hummed again. Lower, more insistent. The black hole waited, like a god with infinite patience. And for once, Ray didn't feel completely alone. The station's artificial gravity was flickering again. That meant Ray's toast had floated past his face for the third time this morning. He tried to grab it, missed, and ended up doing a slow-motion somersault into the kitchenette ceiling. Dignity, zero, he muttered, catching the toast at last and floating back down like a man trying to wrestle with physics and failing. BB, ever supportive, chimed in with, Your flight was graceful, like a wet cat in freefall. Try again. Or not. Ray flipped the toaster off. Not metaphorically, the actual machine. It had started giving him advice lately, which was alarming. Even more alarming, it was sometimes right. He drifted toward the observation bay, where Varela was still deep in study. Lines of alien script shimmered in the air around her, spinning in precise arcs. From a distance, it looked like she was orchestrating a silent symphony with fingers made of light. Ray cleared his throat. So, on a scale from 1 to, we're all going to implode, how bad is it? Without turning, she replied, somewhere between mild structural disruption and reality inversion. Cool, he said, taking a bite of his airborne toast. That's about what I expected, he chewed thoughtfully. Wait, did you say reality inversion? Varela finally turned, her crystalline face betraying just a flicker of concern. Temporal instability is increasing. The gravitational signature of Cantor's maw has begun warping the station's core alignment. I believe your presence is accelerating the process. Ray sighed. Of course it is. Can't just be the guy with bad luck. Gotta be the guy whose brain is playing Twister with time. And yet you persist, she said, not unkindly. He chuckled. That's the human condition. We keep going, even when the toaster starts whispering about destiny. Suddenly, a sharp chime echoed through the station, a sound Ray hadn't heard in over a year. It was the proximity alert. He lunged for the console and smacked it a few times until it cooperated. The screen lit up with a blue-tinged silhouette of a ship, long, elegant, and unmistakably alien. "Safari vessel approaching," Viraya said, voice low. Ray turned slowly. "Friends of yours? They will not see you as a viable match." "Oh, great," Ray muttered. "Here come the space in-laws." Within minutes, the ship docked. The outpost trembled slightly as the boarding clamps engaged. Ray scrambled into his cleaner jumpsuit, still stained, still 2 sizes too small, and tried to look vaguely professional. Viraya remained serene, her posture flawless, her hands folded. The Safari envoy emerged like a ripple through air, tall and symmetrical, and radiating pure judgment. Several others followed, each cloaked in translucent robes that moved like water. The lead envoy, whose name Ray couldn't pronounce but mentally nicknamed Captain Side-Eye, spoke in a tone that made Ray feel like a moldy sandwich. "You have bonded with this human?" Viraya responded calmly. "Yes. His resonance is unique." Ray raised a hand awkwardly. "Hi. I also make great chili. Sometimes." There was silence. The kind of silence that made you want to crawl under the floor and become one with the wiring. The envoy shifted slightly. "The anomaly surrounding this outpost threatens to rupture a pocket of folded time. His continued presence is destabilizing." "I prefer disruptively charming," Ray offered. "Silence," Side-Eye snapped. Bibi, unprompted, whispered through the intercom. "Awkward." Viraya stepped forward. "I will not revoke the bond. I chose him, and he chose me. The temporal activity is not a flaw. It is a sign. He is a hinge." Side-Eye bristled. "You jeopardize the Safari legacy for a soft-skinned anomaly with breakfast stains?" Ray looked down. "Yup, jelly on his sleeve. Classic." In an act of unplanned brilliance or unhinged desperation, Ray suddenly declared, "Then let's settle this the Safari way." Side-Eye narrowed their gaze. "What do you mean?" "Trial by performance." A pause, or, explain. Ray straightened. "I challenge you to a talent exhibition. A totally real, totally ancient human tradition. Winner decides if the bond is valid. Loser admits they don't understand the power of love, or mutual energetic convergence." Varaya's head tilted. "He speaks truth. This is standard ritual among humans." Side-Eye was clearly unprepared for this madness. After several confusing glances, they relented. "Very well, we shall engage in this trial." Ray muttered to Viraya, "I have no idea what I'm doing." "You never do," she replied. "And yet it works." Later that day, the outpost's central chamber was converted into an impromptu talent stage. Bibi provided lights, though most flickered. The gravity was patchy. The audience floated. Viraya recited a cosmic fractal poem that made half the room cry and one ambassador faint. Ray got up last. He had nothing. No cosmic voice, no ancient language. Just a guitar made from an old antenna and 6 broken strings. He sang a song about being alone in space, about vending machines that judged you, about toast and broken people, and black holes that whispered your name. It was off-key. His voice cracked. But the silence afterward wasn't disapproval. It was awe. Maybe pity, but also awe. Even Side-Eye stayed quiet. When the verdict came, it was brief. The bond would remain. No one understood it, but it was real. That night, Ray leaned against the wall next to Viraya, who was calibrating a pulse field. "Well," he said, "guess I'm officially your cosmic mistake with stage fright." "You are not a mistake," she said. "You are possibility." Ray smiled. "Same thing, really. Just with better PR, Ray awoke to find the universe unusually quiet, not silent. He'd learned that space was never really silent, but the kind of quiet that hinted at something monumental having just passed. The black hole, ever present outside the window like a brooding deity, pulsed with lazy indifference. No interdimensional shrieks, no collapsing time pockets, no floating toasters trying to unionize. Just calm, which frankly made Ray nervous. He stumbled out of bed, still wearing one sock and a shirt with the words, "I paused my game for this," printed across it. He found Virea in the central control hub, her fingers, if you could call them that, moving across floating glyphs in slow, thoughtful arcs. The screen showed nothing dramatic, just smooth waves of resonance, like the station had finally exhaled. "I didn't hear any alarms," Ray said, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "They are not needed," Virea replied without turning. "The instability has settled." Ray blinked. "Really? Just like that?" She turned to face him, and this time, he noticed something new in her expression. Not softness exactly, but a kind of stillness, the kind that came after long tension, a cosmic exhale. "The black hole accepted you," she said simply. "Or perhaps it stopped rejecting you. Either way, the resonance is now stable. The temporal echoes have nested." "Nested?" Ray scratched his head. "You mean like birds? Temporal birds?" "Yes," he laughed. "So I'm a nest. Fantastic. Really loving this arc." BB chose that moment to chime in. "Your mind was a storm. Now it is the calm that holds stars in gentle pause." Ray blinked at the console. "Did you get more poetic recently, or am I just more dramatic now?" "Yes," BB replied. Virea stepped forward. "There is more. With the resonance stable, we can leave this outpost. The Safari Council has offered transport. You are no longer a threat." Ray's heart gave a little kick. "So, it's over?" She studied him, and the light through her crystalline body shimmered with shifting gradients. "It is not over. It is simply different." Ray sat on the edge of the console and tried to picture life beyond Epsilon 6. It was hard. For so long, this broken station had been his world, his isolation, his cocoon. But now it felt too small, like pants that didn't fit anymore, metaphorically and literally. "I don't know how to exist out there," he said, voice quieter than usual. Virea walked closer, her presence still strange and beautiful and slightly disorienting. "You learned to exist here, in the shadow of a singularity. You endured without purpose and still found meaning. That is the harder task." Ray looked up at her. "Why did you really choose me?" "I mean, back at the start, you said it was resonance and entropy and all that science fiction salad. But now, after all this, why?" There was a long pause. He expected another technical answer, maybe a mathematical explanation about soul frequencies or quantum harmonics. Instead, Virea said, "Because you do not ask for meaning, you create it." Ray swallowed. That's a hell of a thing to say to a guy who once cried over a dropped burrito." She smiled, an actual smile, however alien it looked. "You are not exceptional in the way your stories tell you to be. Not a chosen one, not genetically perfect. You are damaged, ordinary, and that makes you necessary." Ray laughed, though it cracked halfway through. "So you're saying I'm universal duct tape?" "No," she replied. "You are the strange patch of moss that grows on forgotten stone, unintended, persistent, alive. I'm gonna cross-stitch that onto a pillow." The hours passed. The safari vessel returned, this time not with weapons or judgment, but with quiet reverence. The envoy spoke little, though Side-Eye did offer a very stiff bow that Ray interpreted as either respect or severe indigestion. As the two of them packed the last of Ray's belongings, mostly useless trinkets, a melted coffee mug, and BB's core unit, Ray stood in the docking bay and looked around at the station that had been his prison, his fortress, his home. "Gonna miss this dump," he muttered. Virea approached. "It will continue drifting, a silent monument. To what? To transition." As they stepped onto the transport platform, Ray paused. "Hey, one last question." She looked back. "Do I still have to do the emotional resonance exercises? 'Cause I think I might be allergic to those." She tilted her head, amused. "They are optional, though you may still experience spontaneous vulnerability." Ray sighed. "Can't wait." The ship pulled away from Epsilon 6, leaving the station behind. Outside the viewport, Kenner's maw shimmered, less menacing now, more like a great, sleeping eye. Ray felt it again, faintly, that pulse in his bones. But this time, it didn't feel like a warning. It felt like a heartbeat, a new beginning. And for the first time in a long, long while, Ray didn't feel like a man waiting to be forgotten. He felt chosen, not by destiny, not by prophecy, but by someone who saw the chaos and stayed anyway.